From 1 Samuel chapters 15 and 16.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house in Gibeah of Saul. Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death. But Samuel grieved over Saul, and the Lord was sorry that he had made Saul king over Israel. I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to have you take a seat. The rest of the reading is a little bit long, and I've got some commentary a little bit as I go along. And just thinking about you standing for 15 minutes doesn't sound. All right, so at this moment, we know that Samuel is grieving over Saul. Last week, if you heard the message, Saul was the very first king that they were going to have. It was the beginning of the monarchy, right? And God had warned them that your king was going to do a lot of bad stuff. He wasn't going to be the best king. And so at this moment, we hear that Saul wasn't the best king. That God had given Saul certain commandments, certain things to do. And Saul chose not to do them. And thus, Saul is removed from his monarchy. So the Lord said to Samuel, "How long will you grieve over Saul? I have rejected him from being king over Israel. Fill your horn with oil and set out. I will send you to Jesse, the Bethlehemite." Bethlehem? Anybody picking that up? Who else is born in Bethlehem? Oliver? Who else is born in Bethlehem? Jesus. That's right. Here he is. All right. So Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided for myself a king among his sons. Samuel said, "How can I go? If Saul hears of it, he'll kill me." All right, so Saul doesn't really want to be rejected as king. Who does, right? Who wants the power taken away from them? All right, so Samuel's a little worried that Saul's going to kill him for picking a new king. And the Lord said, "Take a heifer with you and say, 'I have come to sacrifice to the Lord.'" Is God telling Samuel to make a white lie here? I mean, basically, he's not going there to make a sacrifice to the Lord. He's going there to make a new king. But just tell people that it's to make a sacrifice to the Lord. "Invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show you what you shall do. And you shall anoint for me the one whom I name for you." Samuel did what the Lord commanded, and came to Bethlehem. The elders of the city came to meet him, trembling in fear. They're trembling because if Saul hears that Samuel's there to pick a new king, he's probably going to kill them too. "Do you come peaceably?" Samuel said, "Peaceably? I come to sacrifice to the Lord. Sanctify yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice." And he sanctified Jesse and his sons and invited them to the sacrifice. When they came, he looked on Eliab and thought, "Surely the Lord's anointed is now before the Lord." But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not look on his appearance or on the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord does not see as mortals see. They look on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart." Then Jesse called Abinadab. Sorry, I'm going to be really bad with these names. I'm just doing my best here. And made him pass before Samuel. And he said, "Neither has the Lord chosen this one." Then Jesse made Shammah pass by, and he said, "Neither has the Lord chosen this one." Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. And Samuel said to Jesse, "The Lord has not chosen any of these." Samuel said to Jesse, "Are all of your sons here?" And he said, "There remains yet the youngest one, but he's keeping the sheep." And Samuel said to Jesse, "Send and bring him, for we will not sit down until he comes here." He sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy, and his beautiful eyes and was handsome. I love the commentator there by whoever wrote 1 Samuel there, right? Just to be clear, David's got pretty eyes, right? Just to be clear, this is really important scripture passage here. He has beautiful eyes. And the Lord said, "Rise and anoint him, for this is the one." Then Samuel took the horn of oil, anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon David from that day forward. Samuel then set out and went to Ramah. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Before we begin here, I just want to open up. I've been here since November, but I've been kind of dreaming about West Union since I met with the council in, was it August or so, around that time? Yeah. And since I've been here, I've been continually inspired by the well-care of such a sacred space, the well-maintaining of grounds and fellowship hall. I've been inspired by people with lots of gifts and talents and strengths. And I'm beginning to work on it. I've talked to a couple of committees and the council about this, but I'm beginning to formulate, what does 3 years, 5 years look like, where West Union feels even more vibrant, really digs into who we are and to what we could be. I'm really excited about the future of West Union and us connecting more deeply with our community and with each other. And so I'm beginning to build a framework of how do you get to 3 to 5 years out, right? How do we get to be the place that we all in our hearts, I think, can see where West Union could be? We are so good right now. How do we get to a place where we feel great? And even more than what we've imagined, beyond what we have imagined. So I'm working right now on developing a framework, a structure, because I could just say, let's do this, do that, but that's just me. That's just my vision. That's not our vision. That's not the vision with God stirring in your hearts as well. And so just to let you know, that's where I am. I'm in a place of excitement for West Union, of digging in deeper of who we are and what we could be. And I want to start building a framework that helps us get there, right? That is strong and enduring and lasts. And so if you want to be a part of that conversation, if you've got thoughts and ideas, if you want to share your thoughts and vision of West Union, talk to me, talk to the council, let us know, and we'll get there together. Okay? I'm just really, really excited for what's down the line for us here. And with that, would you join me in a word of prayer? Holy and wonderful God, I give you thanks that by the power of your Holy Spirit, you've gathered us here today, physically, digitally. I want to tell a little story about the first time I want to tell a story about me graduating from college. And this is kind of an experience of what maybe leadership looks like in my life. So I went to Luther College down in Decorah, Iowa. It was amazing. It was life-giving. I went there for music, realized I didn't know how to teach music or listen to music. Someone plays a note, if Bridget were to play a note on the organ or piano, I would have no idea what she's playing. I can sing along with the group, but I can't teach it. So I floundered for a little bit at college until I tried math, and math was good until it got way too hard. And I ended up in religion, because it was the one class I was passing in life. So I was well, I might as well study this. I'm at least doing good here. And now here I am, stuck. No, not stuck. Following religion stuff. But life was so good. It's my freshman year of college. I met my wife there. I was on the 3rd floor of the dorm. She was on the 4th floor. I had this really hard time of waking up for an 8 a.m. math class. Can you imagine? You're 18 years old and you've got to get to an 8 a.m. Calculus 2 class. It was brutal. And has anybody ever heard of Pavlov's dog? Right, where you give the dog a treat and you like ring a bell, you give the dog a treat, you ring a bell, give the dog a treat, ring a bell, you ring the bell, and the dog starts salivating because it's so excited because it's now associated the treat with the bell. I think my wife did this to me when we were 18 and we weren't dating yet. So we started to get to know each other. We were in the circle of friends together. And she starts like realizing that I'm not making it to the 8 a.m. math class. And she goes to the same class. So every morning at like 7:45, she like knocks on my door, wakes me up, and like brings me an orange juice and granola bar. And she keeps doing that every time there's a math class. And that's all through the fall. And then January rolls around and she starts dating somebody else. And guess what's not coming to my door anymore? The juice and the granola bar. And I'm like, I need those things. I need her. I need her. And so I weaseled my way into that relationship. And here we are. He's gone somewhere else and I'm with her. So I think she like totally tricked me into falling in love with her. And I have. I have fully fallen in love with her. But anyways, I met her there, right? So college is so good for me. Like, and I get to learn more about who I am. By the end of college, I don't know what I'm doing afterwards. At the end of college, I'm like, oh, maybe work for a nonprofit. I'll do something in life. I end up working for Wells Fargo, like the opposite of a nonprofit, right? Worked there for a few years, worked for an life insurance company. Anyways, all that to say, like, I'm ending college not certain where life is taking me, where I'm going, what I'm going to do. But the graduation day comes around, and it's filled with celebration and fun, and it started raining, so we moved it inside. And I'm a Teskey, so I'm not up front, and where I'm sitting during the ceremony, it's kind of like right in the middle area of a row, right? So I've been trained on nothings. I'm not the first one. You know, my name doesn't start with AA. I'm a T. I'm at the back. I'm not at the end of a row. So my job is literally follow everybody else, right? Just follow along. You'll get your diploma. You'll shake your hands. You'll take your picture. You'll head out, right? Except, as I go through, follow along everybody, we get up to the spot. Now there's like multiple stations before you receive your diploma. The first station is the photo, right? That's a really good one. Yeah, you take your photo, then you move to the bottom of the stairs, then you move to the top of the stairs, and then your name is called. So I go through the whole process, right? I walk along, I take my photo, then I move along bottom of the stairs, top of the stairs, and my name is not called. Okay, back down the stairs. Oh, but this is where they're taking photos of other kids, so I should like stand somewhere else. And so the ceremony moves along, right? They finish the T's, they finish the TU's, they finish the V's, and then there's this big long pause. There's this murmuring, and eventually they realize, like, oh, we missed a name. We missed Adam Teskey. So, like, all the people of the photo, the stair stations, everybody's long gone. They call my name. There's this big applause, like, oh, they were in the V's and now they're calling a T. And this is why there was a big long pause. So I shake the hands and I wave, yay. And I continue on the ceremony. The next name is called. So then I'm like, okay, I walk down the stairs and I'm like, oh, that looks like an aisle. I'll walk down there and I'll eventually find my seat among all the black hats and the black capes and everybody looking exactly the same. I'll figure out where I'm supposed to go. So I start walking down an aisle, but all of a sudden, like, there's lots of wheelchairs and there's lots of, like, what do they call it? Walkers. It's the handicap section. It is not an aisle. It's the handicap section. So I'm like weaving in and out. Oh, sorry. And everybody behind me now is also walking. No. Everybody's slipping over. And you can just hear the crowd starting to laugh and giggle because they're like, look at this big mess. And of course, then I have to like stop everybody because everybody looks the same and I don't know where my empty seat is. So then like everybody stopped and blocked and standing, next to all the walkers and wheelchairs. It was a great big mess. And I feel like it was like God's like saying, like, here's how you're going to lead in life. Like, here you go. Next up, you get a congregation to do this stuff. But I get a sense that God was not looking at any sort of qualifications I have to be a pastor or to be a leader. Right? God's not looking at my physical appearance might not look like a great pastor or leader. I'm not tall. Every male in our family is over 6 feet tall. I got the 5'8" card. I don't know why. Both sides of the family, right? So I'm not tall. I'm not strong. I'm often not well spoken. I'm tripping over words. I'm tripping over steps. Like, I'm not the picturesque leader of many things. But I believe that God looks at my heart. That God looks at Kaylin's heart and Alex's heart and your heart. God looks beyond the appearances and the qualifications or any sort of human given criteria. And sees us as God has made us, as a beautiful, beloved child, uniquely created and gifted for this world. That there is something special deep within you to share with others. And in that sharing, you discover more of who you are. And you find more love for yourself because you're living as God has made you to be. You could read this passage and think of it kind of like a do not judge story, right? Samuel is the prophet. He looks at the oldest son, tall and stature. Clearly, this must be the next king. And then like 10 more sons come along. None of them looks like it. But it's the sunburned, working shepherd who was chosen. Because God looked at his heart. Right? So you could hear this story and hear it as a story of do not judge appearances. Do not judge people for what they look like or their abilities or anything. Don't judge people because God is working something within them. You could also take it a little bit further. Right? Not only do not judge, but also hold space that maybe we don't always know God's plan. We don't know God's decisions. Right? Samuel has been a prophet for a really, really long time. Caleb Selkin and I did a reading together where he was the voice of the little boy in the temple, and I was the voice of God. And the little boy in the temple hearing the voice say, Samuel, Samuel, in the middle of the night. And eventually ending with Samuel saying, Here I am, Lord. Samuel, as a little boy, has had a direct line connection with God, and for decades has heard God speaking to him and telling the Israelites and others God's desires, God's plan. And yet, even in this moment, when Samuel stands before the oldest son and he looks at him, he still doesn't understand God's plan. He looks at the older son, tall and stature, strong, clearly. In Samuel's eyes, this is the next leader. And God says, no, it's not him. And so Samuel, the prophet, Samuel, the one who can speak directly to God, still doesn't know God's plans, God's decisions, what God has decided or decreed. Because God continues to look at the heart. And that's what matters most to God. It's not all the sacrifices. It's not all the big showy work. It's what's in the heart. It's do you love God? Do you love your neighbor as yourself? That's what God is looking for. That's what God requires and asks of us. And so graduates, who are about to embark in the next phase of life. It's okay to have some ideas of where you're going, but it's also okay to not know. For even if you had a direct connection with God, God continues to change the plan. And that's okay. But Kaylin and Alex, God has uniquely created you as beautiful, beloved children. And I don't know what's next for you, but I know the promise is this, that God is with you wherever you go. And that promise, not only for them, but it's for each and every one of you, that whatever is next, whether it's today, next week, years from now, the plans might change. What you think God has decided might change, but that God is with you wherever you go. Amen.